Chosen one, this is not an ordinary message. This is a sacred revelation, sent directly from the throne of heaven. And if your eyes are reading these words right now, know without a doubt, this is not a coincidence. You have been led here by the Spirit of the living God. This message isn't new to your soul. In fact, it's something you've been waiting your whole life to remember. But not everyone will understand this. Because this word is not for the crowd. It's for those who carry something ancient within, those who have endured invisible isolation, who've walked through deep spiritual pain, who've always sensed what others overlook, and who are now, finally, beginning to awaken. Today, something sacred will be revealed. You're about to discover 7 spiritual signs that can be seen in the eyes of those truly chosen by God, eyes where light dwells, where truth is quietly felt, where pain and purpose have made peace, and where prophetic vision lives. And if something inside your spirit is stirring right now, if this message feels like home, then comment 777 below. Let it be a prophetic declaration. Let it be your way of saying, Lord, I receive this word. The number 777 in Scripture represents divine completion, perfection, and alignment. It is heaven's number, a symbol of spiritual order, holiness, and the fullness of God's plan. So when you type it, don't just write a number, you are activating a confirmation in the unseen realm. Take a deep breath. Because what you're about to receive is not just information, it's transformation. Are you ready? Let us begin. Chosen one. Before anyone can recognize a chosen one by their words or walk, they often feel it first, in the eyes. That's where the first mark reveals itself, eyes that push back darkness, eyes that carry a light not born from this world. It's not the kind of brightness that fades with time or depends on external peace. It's not about charisma or confidence. It's a holy residue, a subtle, steady radiance that lingers from dwelling in the presence of God. This kind of light doesn't scream. It doesn't perform. It simply exists, undeniable, unshakable. Just as Exodus 34 verse 29 tells us that Moses' face shone because he had been speaking with the Lord, the chosen carry something similar, not on their face, but in their eyes. This light does not ask for attention. It simply reveals itself. You can't fake it, because it's not rooted in personality, it's rooted in presence. Many who carry it aren't even aware of it. They're too busy surviving the fires that shaped them. But those around them notice. Strangers feel calm just by making eye contact. Children lean in without knowing why. Even skeptics lower their guard, not because of the words being spoken, but because of the weight of peace carried in the gaze of someone who has been marked by heaven. This kind of light shines clearest in contrast. It holds steady in hospital rooms, in mourning, in stillness. It doesn't disappear when life is unfair. It's not silenced by grief. On the contrary, suffering tends to polish it, deepening its glow rather than dimming it. And those who look into such eyes feel both comforted and confronted, as if, somehow, they are being reminded of a truth they had forgotten. If you've ever been told your eyes feel heavy with meaning, or that you see more than you let on, this may be why. If others tend to open up their hearts to you without knowing why, if they look at you once and never quite forget your face, you may be carrying the very light that reveals the first mark. It's not about being perfect, it's about being present. Present with God. Present with people. Present in pain, and still carrying hope in your gaze. And while you may not always feel powerful, that light in your eyes holds more authority than you know. It is what demons recognize before a word is said. It is what causes atmospheres to shift. It is why your silence can pierce through chaos. You've been in the presence of the Most High, and that encounter did more than change you, it illuminated you. You don't need to explain it to others. Most won't understand. But their spirit will recognize it, even if their mind can't name it. And that's enough. Because this light, this sacred, untouchable, radiant essence in your eyes, it didn't come from this world, and this world has no power to take it away. All light must be guarded. And those who carry it are not just called to shine, they're called to watch. Because when your eyes have been marked by heaven, they don't merely illuminate. They protect. They scan. They sense the unseen. That's why the second sign reveals itself not in the brightness of the gaze, but in its quiet alertness. The eyes of the chosen never spiritually sleep. While others drift through life unaware, distracted by noise and comfort, the chosen remain attuned. Their discernment is not reactive, it's active, constant, and quietly persistent. Like watchmen standing atop the ancient walls of Jerusalem, their spirits are never off duty. This is not about paranoia or suspicion. It's about spiritual posture. A readiness rooted in intimacy with God. A sensitivity to atmosphere, energy, and presence, not because they're trying to see something, but because they were born to notice what others miss. As Isaiah 62 verse 6 declares, "I have posted watchmen on your walls, Jerusalem, they will never be silent day or night." This is the calling the chosen carry in their eyes. And it's often a burden. Because to see what others overlook is to feel what others ignore. They can walk into a room and feel the tension before a word is spoken. They can sense grief hiding beneath a smile, or warfare masked behind humor. They recognize manipulation, spiritual darkness, emotional dishonesty, not because they're trained in psychology, but because they're trained by fire. Their eyes have been baptized in both suffering and revelation. This gift of spiritual vigilance can be isolating. It's hard to explain why your peace feels interrupted when everyone else seems fine. It's difficult to describe why you're restless when there's nothing wrong. But the chosen understand, discernment isn't about reacting to what's already visible. It's about catching the shift before the storm. It's the internal alarm that sounds before the attack ever reaches the gate. And that's why so many chosen ones are misunderstood. People may say, "You're too intense," or "You read into things too much." But they don't realize that what feels like overthinking is actually overseeing. Their spirit isn't overreacting, it's overprotecting. Because the assignment God has placed in their lives requires them to see beyond the veil. To pray before the battle breaks out. To intercede before the damage is done. They often carry this discernment from a young age, unable to explain why certain people or situations felt off. Over time, this sensitivity becomes spiritual maturity, a sacred awareness that sees not just people, but the spirits influencing them. And though this calling is often quiet, it's never passive. Their silence is not indifference, it is strategy. When others fall asleep spiritually, the chosen remain awake. When others lose their edge, the chosen stay sharp. Even in seasons of rest, their spirit remains attentive, listening, scanning, covering. They may look still on the outside, but their eyes are doing the work of a warrior in the spirit. And if this resonates with you, if you've ever felt like you were carrying an invisible alertness, a knowing that couldn't be turned off, if you've ever wept not because of your own pain, but because you sensed the pain in others before they spoke, you may be carrying the second mark. Spiritual alertness may guard the soul, but it is the third mark that reaches into others. Because for those who are truly chosen, discernment isn't limited to the spiritual realm alone, it extends into human hearts. And more often than not, it's through their eyes that the veil is lifted. The chosen carry eyes that see through masks. These are not eyes of suspicion, but eyes of sacred perception, the kind that know when a smile is covering sorrow, when ambition is hiding fear, or when strength is simply the armor someone had to put on to survive. The gaze of the chosen is quiet, but it disarms. Not by force, but by truth. People feel known in their presence, even if they've barely spoken. It's as though their soul has been gently unveiled, not by interrogation, but by being seen through the eyes of compassion. This is what Jesus modeled when he looked at Nathanael in John 1 verse 47 and said, "Here truly is an Israelite in whom there is no deceit." In one moment, without a conversation, he acknowledged the truth of a man's spirit. He did not judge him for his doubts or flatter him for his virtue. He simply recognized what was real. That's what the eyes of the chosen do, they don't react to performance. They respond to essence. For those who carry this mark, it's both a gift and a burden. They walk through the world sensing what others hide. Not just the lies they speak, but the ones they tell themselves. They notice the friend who says, "I'm fine," but can't meet your gaze. They feel the emotional tension behind professional success. They can read exhaustion written beneath laughter. And though they're rarely invited to confront those truths directly, their presence often brings people to a moment of holy honesty. People tend to open up in their presence, not because they're forced, but because their spirit finds rest. It's not uncommon for someone to say, "I don't know why I'm telling you this," or to suddenly cry when met with a gaze that sees past the surface. That's not coincidence. That's what happens when someone who sees without agenda stands before someone who's been hiding for too long. The chosen don't use this insight to gain power or influence. They use it to offer grace. Their discernment isn't used to expose, it's used to rescue. And what makes this mark even more powerful is that those who carry it have usually worn many masks of their own. They know what it's like to smile through pain, to fake strength, to hide in plain sight. And it's because they've had to strip off their own layers that their gaze now holds the authority to see through others, with tenderness, not shame. This kind of spiritual X-ray vision cannot be taught. It's forged in silence, in tears, in wilderness seasons where the chosen had no choice but to face the truth about themselves. And now, when they look at others, it's from a place of deep empathy, not judgment. If you've always felt like you could sense the room without words, if people have told you that your presence brings clarity or calm, if you've been the one others trust with what they can't admit to anyone else, you may be carrying this mark. Not because you want to know everything, but because God trusts you to handle truth gently. You weren't called to be fooled by appearances. You were called to bring light into what's hidden. And your eyes were not meant to look away. They were meant to look deeper, and to remind others that being truly seen can be safe, sacred, and redemptive. There's a quiet authority that settles in those who have suffered and survived. After the light, after the discernment, after the unveiling and awakening, what remains is something deeper, a gaze shaped not just by what they've seen, but by what they've survived. That's when the fifth and final mark is revealed, eyes that remember the fire. These are not eyes that avoid pain, but eyes that have walked through it and come out refined. They remember the dark nights of the soul. They remember the questions, the silence, the ache of prayers that felt unanswered. But what's most sacred about these eyes is not that they've seen fire, it's that they carry no bitterness. Only depth. Only grace. The chosen have endured things they never told anyone. They've wept in silence. They've bled in private. But through it all, they were not consumed. As Isaiah 43 verse 2 declares, "When you walk through the fire, you shall not be burned, and the flame shall not consume you." The pain did not destroy them, it prepared them. The fire did not end them, it anointed them. And now, that memory lives quietly in their eyes. There's a weight to their presence, but it's not heavy, it's holy. There's something about their gaze that makes others feel safe without knowing why. It's because the chosen don't just carry empathy, they carry sacred empathy. The kind that doesn't need explanations. The kind that doesn't try to fix or analyze. The kind that simply sits with you in your sorrow and says, "I know." Not with words, but with eyes that have known the valley. And this is why the chosen become safe places for others. People can cry around them without feeling weak. People can admit things they've hidden from everyone else. It's not because the chosen went to school for it. It's because they went through fire for it. The cost of their peace was paid in pain. The depth of their kindness was born from loneliness. Their compassion wasn't taught, it was forged. This mark isn't about looking sorrowful or wounded. In fact, many who carry it smile often. They laugh deeply. They live fully. But behind that light is the memory of what it took to get here. And that memory gives them the ability to hold space for others without judgment, without fear. Their eyes say, "You don't have to be okay yet. You're still seen. You're still loved." If people have said you feel like home, if others break down in your presence because they can finally exhale, if you carry peace not because your life has been easy, but because God met you in the flames, then you may carry this mark. You may not talk about it often, but your eyes do. They speak of midnight battles and sacred breakthroughs. They carry the residue of holy encounters that happened when no one else was watching. And this is why the chosen are often drawn to the broken. Not to rescue, but to walk beside. They don't offer clichés. They offer presence. Because they remember the fire, and they remember who walked with them through it. That is the final mark. Not glory without cost, but glory that grew out of ashes. Not healing without wounds, but healing that flows because of them. These are the eyes that remember, and in remembering, they help others rise. Some carry light. Some carry fire. But the ones who carry this next mark, they carry the future. Because once your soul has been through pain and purification, something sacred begins to awaken, a vision that no storm can shake. That's when the sixth mark begins to glow behind your gaze, quiet, steady, undeniable, eyes that see what hasn't yet come. The chosen walk is not just by faith, they see by it. While the world sees lack, they see preparation. While others see endings, they see birthing. Their eyes are full of blueprints heaven whispered before time began. And even when reality contradicts what they carry, they hold to the vision with unwavering trust. It's not optimism. It's not denial. It's revelation. As Hebrews 11 verse 1 says, now faith is confidence in what we hope for and assurance about what we do not see. The chosen live by that assurance. Not because they've figured everything out, but because they've aligned their sight with God's. They don't need to see the rain to declare the harvest. They don't need to see the open door to prepare to walk through it. They don't need applause to start building. The blueprint lives in their spirit, and their eyes carry the reflection of it. And because they live this way, their gaze often confuses others, not because it's proud, but because it's ahead. They speak of things before they arrive. They sense shifts in the spiritual atmosphere. They prepare while others wait. And when people ask, why are you moving like that when nothing has changed? The chosen simply say, because I've already seen it. This gift doesn't always come with clarity. Often, it's carried in tension, believing in what hasn't yet manifested, holding space for what others have given up on. But that tension becomes the sacred ground where miracles grow. It's where the chosen learn to walk by whispers, not signs. And over time, their eyes begin to glow with a quiet knowing that doesn't need proof to feel real. These are the ones who see greatness in broken people. Who see revival in desolate places. Who look at a life in ruins and still say, God's not finished here. Their vision isn't just upward, it's forward. They live today with eyes anchored in eternity. If you've ever been called too hopeful, too intense, or too early, you may carry this mark. If people don't understand why you're so convicted about something they can't see, you may have been given divine foresight. If you've ever felt out of sync with the timing of others, not behind, but ahead, that's not confusion. That's calling. And when others finally begin to see what you've been carrying all along, it won't be your voice that speaks loudest, it will be your eyes. Because the eyes of the chosen don't just see. They confirm. They carry the fingerprints of a future shaped in prayer, purified in fire, and appointed by God. When someone sees the future, it gives them power. But when someone helps others see themselves again, that's legacy. That's impact. That's divine multiplication. And this final mark, perhaps the rarest of all, belongs to those who don't just carry their own calling, they awaken the calling in others. Eyes that awaken calling in others. These are the eyes that don't crave the spotlight, they create it for others. The chosen are not here to impress. They're here to unlock. They walk into rooms and destinies begin to stir. Forgotten dreams start breathing again. People feel seen not only for who they are, but for who they're becoming. This is not manipulation. This is not charisma. This is Kingdom DNA activating Kingdom DNA. Matthew 5 verse 14 says, "You are the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hidden." The chosen carry that light, not to hoard it, but to ignite it in everyone they meet. Their gaze is more than affirmation, it's a mirror. It tells others, yes, you too were made for more. Many people go through life questioning their worth. They doubt their gifts. They silence their voice. But then they meet someone whose presence disrupts the silence and reminds them of their divine assignment. That someone is the chosen. And what they carry isn't just light, it's awakening. They don't need a pulpit. They don't need a stage. Their influence is often felt inside conversations, in quiet moments, in the way someone suddenly says, "I don't know why, but I feel like I'm supposed to start again." That is not coincidence. That's impartation. The chosen don't speak to surface. They speak to the seed. They don't flatter, they call forth. And often, without even knowing it, their presence gives permission for others to dream again, to believe again, to pick up what they laid down years ago. Why? Because the chosen have already walked through their own doubt. They've already faced their own fears. And now their eyes don't just carry testimony, they carry activation. People who've been stagnant start to move again. Those who felt unqualified begin to show up. Not because they were convinced, but because something inside them was reawakened. That's what happens when you encounter someone who sees beyond your pain, beyond your fear, beyond your failure, into your purpose. And here's the beautiful thing, the chosen don't do this by striving. It flows from who they are. Their lives become permission slips. Their scars become blueprints. Their consistency becomes a call, if I made it through, so can you. Their eyes don't say, look at me. They say, look within you. If people tend to leave your presence feeling bolder, if they start writing again, creating again, praying again, if you've ever heard someone say, you reminded me of who I am, then you carry this seventh mark. You are not just a light. You are a torchbearer. You are a divine spark in the lives of those who've forgotten how to burn. This is not about building your platform, it's about awakening the platforms that live in others. It's not about followers, it's about fruit. You weren't chosen to be admired. You were chosen to activate. And your eyes, more than your words, have already begun to do it. So when people meet your gaze and suddenly feel like they can rise again, start again, believe again, don't be surprised. That's not accidental. That's divine design. Now that the signs have been revealed, let your heart breathe. Let your spirit rest in what it has just heard, not as something new, but something deeply familiar. If you saw yourself in these signs, if your soul stirred with recognition, not surprise, then this wasn't just a message. It was a homecoming. You didn't stumble across these words. You were led by the very spirit that marked you long before you had language for your calling. The light in your eyes. The clarity you carry in silence. The compassion forged through pain. The vision that peers through time. The quiet awakening you spark in others. These are not traits of the ordinary, they are evidences of a life chosen, refined, and commissioned by heaven. And now that you see them, may you never again doubt why your journey has been different. You weren't meant to blend in. You were always meant to shine. So what comes next? This is more than information to reflect on, it's revelation to respond to. It's not just a message you heard, it's an invitation. An invitation to remember who you are, to stand taller in the truth you've always carried, even when the world tried to make you forget. If this message stirred something in you, if it confirmed what you've always quietly known deep down in the hidden parts of your soul, let that light move through you. Like this message as a simple act of agreement, a way of saying, I receive this truth. Not just for today, but for the days ahead when doubt tries to cloud your clarity. And more importantly, share your story. Whether it's something you've walked through, a mark you recognize in yourself, or a word of encouragement for someone else, your story matters. Your voice matters. There is power in testimony. What you've survived might be the very thing that sets someone else free. What you once called brokenness might become someone else's breakthrough. And if someone came to mind while you were listening, someone whose eyes have carried that same light, that same depth, that same silent strength, share this with them. You never know whose spirit is waiting to be reminded that they are not alone. Sometimes, it only takes one act of courage to wake up a calling that's been quietly sleeping for years. One moment of vulnerability can unlock someone else's voice. One message, one click, one whisper of encouragement might shift the course of someone's life forever. As you leave this moment, may you carry these truths with you, not just as reminders, but as identity. Let them guide the way you walk, shape the way you see, and soften the way you love. May your light never flicker in the face of darkness. May your discernment remain sharp, even when the world tells you to numb it. May your pain continue to become purpose, and may your purpose always point others back to God, not through perfection, but through presence. You don't need a stage to carry His glory. You don't need a title to speak with power. You don't need to be famous to be faithful. You are already marked. You are already chosen. You are already carrying something sacred. All you need is to keep walking, with humility, with truth, with love. You are not invisible. You are not forgotten. You are not too late. Everything about you has been appointed for this very moment. And though the path may still be narrow, the assignment is clear: walk in the light, speak from revelation, love from compassion, and never forget who sent you. So may peace fill your home. May clarity anchor your spirit. May courage rise again in your bones. May hope return where it's been silent. May healing spring forth like rivers in a desert. And may every seed of calling inside of you begin to bloom, in God's perfect time, with heaven's unstoppable power. Until we meet again, stay faithful. Stay bright. And always remember, you are chosen, and your story is far from over. In the mighty name of Jesus, Amen.